The Dark Man. My grandfather on my dad's side passed away from cancer back in 2018 at the age of 75. Unlike my mom's parents and my dad's mom, my two brothers, my sister, and I knew very little about Grandpa Henry. All that we knew about him that he was born on April 7, 1943, Scottown, Pennsylvania, the same sort of town that my dad, my siblings, and I grew up in. He graduated high school a year early, played football at Michigan State, spent 3 years in the Navy, worked with my grandma, and worked at a CPA at an accounting firm in Pittsburgh for 38 years, and that he had two older siblings, a brother, Rupert, and a sister, Olivia, who died within months of each other while they were still in their teens. Rupert died just a week shy of his 18th birthday in a car accident. Great-uncle Rupert had lost control of his 1941 Ford Coupe going down Shotgun Hill and went off the road at the curve at the bottom. The car rolled over several times before coming to rest upright. Rupert died instantly. Several months later, my great-aunt Olivia, who was 15 at the time, was murdered in her sleep, presumably by her ex-boyfriend named Joey Winston. The fact that Joey had been stalking her since the breakup and that he once showed up at my great-grandparents' house, refusing to leave until he talked to Olivia, only leaving when my great-grandfather threatened to eject him by the seat of his pants and left shaking his fist, making vile threats, was enough for Joey to not only be tried as an adult, but when found guilty, he was given the death penalty. Joey died in electric chair 5 years to the day of the murder, still claiming that he was innocent and he had no idea how Olivia's blood got in his Switzerland life anyway. Back to the story. The day my grandfather died, we were all in his room at Scottown General Hospital. At the time, I had graduated from cemetery school and just became a pastor at a Christian church a town over. As we gathered around the hospital bed, we all knew it was the end for Grandpa Henry. As we were talking, my grandfather stopped mid-sentence and asked that my family leave the room, but I stay. When my parents, grandmother, and sibling left, my grandfather turned to me and said, "Nicholas, I have something to tell you. He stopped, then looked over to a corner. I looked and saw no one, but apparently my grandfather could. "Please, not yet. Let me speak to my grandson first," he began. He then turned to me and continued, "I have committed a great sin in my life and that I must confess to." A whole lot of thoughts went through my mind when he said those words. Did he have an affair at some point of his marriage? Did he kill someone while he was in college or the Navy? What is this great sin? I asked. My grandfather coughed and said I invoked the forces of darkness for favor when I was just a boy of 10. The forces of darkness, I asked? More specifically, an entity known as the Dark Man. Right now, he's over in the corner, waiting to hurt my soul as a payment for his services. I stood stunned. My grandfather was not the most religious man in the world, not by a long shot, but to hear him say he once summoned a demon as a boy, that was hard to take in. My grandfather continued, "You know that my brother and sister both died unnatural deaths, how my brother Rupert died in a car crash, and my sister Olivia was murdered, right?" "Yes, Grandpa Henry," I said. "Well, those were the doing of the Dark Man," he said. He coughed again a few times before continuing, and this is the story he told. My parents never planned on having me and were emotionally neglectful to me as a result. To them, I was the unwanted child. Although my parents never said it, it became clear to me at a young age. Rupert and Olivia got all the attention, all the newest toys and games for their birthday and Christmas, the newest clothes, everything. For me, my parents did not only bare minimum. All the toys and clothes were hand-me-downs that my brother had grown out of or lost interest in. My parents seemed to never take notice in me or my interest in what I do. On top of that, Rupert and Olivia never even tried to speak up for me or share their spoils with me. They were both absorbed in themselves and basking in the attention that my mother and father gave them, while I subsided off scrapped. One day back in 1953, I finally broke. Back then, I had a friend named Sam Lolo. Sam was the weird kid in school that everyone, including the teachers at Andrew Carriage Elementary School, did their best to ignore. Sam wasn't a bad kid, just different. I don't know how else to put it. The reason Sam and I got along was, well, It's because he was in the same boat as me. His mother wasn't in the picture, though. I never knew why he didn't ask, and his father was too busy either getting drunk or playing poker with his buddies from work to pay attention to him. As we were walking home from school, I turned to Sam and said, I can't stand it anymore. The way my folks treat me is like a pest. How my brother and sister get everything that they want and more, and I don't even care that their little brother is being cast aside like an old sweater. Sam then asked, well, what do you want plan to do about it? I shrugged. Run away, join the circus perhaps, maybe go to sea as a cabin boy, I told him. Sam seemed to think for a moment and then said, there's an alternative to running away. Oh, and what's that? I asked. Sam smiled and said, the Dark Man ritual. The what? I asked. The Dark Man ritual, Sam said. Sam went on to say how the Dark Man was this being that could be summoned and used to make anyone the person wished to summon him to, well, not be around anymore. And where did you find out about this Dark Man? I asked. Sam smiled again. From a book called Spells, Summoning, and Rituals. I got it several months ago at Hanson's Audi over on 3rd Street. Hanson Audi had moved into town back in 1951. The building that the Hansons moved into had previously been a shoe store by an elderly husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Beecham, who owned the store, mysteriously disappeared. The 2 employees that worked there had shown up to work one day and found the door locked, the lights off, and the old couple nowhere to be found. The police searched for a few weeks but found nothing. Not long after the search was called off, Mr. Hanson bought the building and opened his Audi shop. Many people in the town were suspicious of Mr. Hanson. Many suspect that he had something to do with the Beechers' disappearance, and the fact that some of the stuff in his window display looked like stuff from horror films didn't exactly help his case. When did you get this book? I asked. Back in November while my dad was having one of his all-night poker sessions that he had once a month. I could have hopped on a boxcar parked on the siding by the station and have been taken away, and my dad wouldn't have noticed, nor would he have probably cared, Sam said. Now I know Sam could be weird. Heck, he had a dog named Cat. Read horror and suspense comics like Tales of the Craft and Shock and Suspense instead of superhero comics such as Superman or Batman like most boys did. At once worn rain boots to school on a bright sunny day for no other reason than he just felt like it, by dabbing in something like witchcraft and something else. How do you know the Dark Man ritual will work? I asked. Simple. I summoned him myself before Christmas break, Sam replied. And who did you have the Dark Man get rid of? I asked. Sam smiled and said, in a matter-of-fact tone, our teacher, Miss Gibson. I gulped. Miss Gibson had been the meanest teacher in our school. She was an elderly spinster with a face that looked like she had been raised on lemon juice. Her entire life was as canister as they came. Why the school kept her around was a mystery. Both Sam and I were unlucky to be put in her class, where she took an instant dislike to us the first time she saw us, but hated Sam the most. Her rage of terror ended over Christmas break in 1952, when she died in a house fire that reduced a large Victorian house to char and rubble and ash. Her body was found by firefighter and was nothing more than a blackened skull. You mean you used the Dark Man to kill our teacher? I gasped. Sam nodded. When I said the Dark Man makes people not be around, what did you think he does? Turns them into frogs, takes them to another dimension, or some other Hollywood junk like that? Sam asked. I was hesitating at first, but like a fool, I decided to go along with it. Oh, how I wish I hadn't. We went to Sam's house, where he left himself in. Sam lived in a rundown old house in a speedy part of town. The neighborhood itself was surrounded by factories, train yards, and of course, no one was home. His father was away working an odd steel mill was torn down years ago. We went up to his bedroom where he took the accused book from his bookshelf. It was an ancient relic bound in black leather with the title written in gold letters with a pentagram in a circle below it. There was no author's name, just the title and symbol. "This looks old," I said. Sam smiled. Mr. Hanson said it was written around the 1700s, but had no idea who wrote it or where it originated from. "But let me have it for $1, Sam said. He then turned to the page that was marked by a red bookmark. It had the Darkman ritual written on it. The instructions were simple. Stand before a mirror in a darkness room, light 2 black candles having one on each side, and say an incantation. The incantation went like this: dark man, come to me so that my eyes can see. Dark man, take me away, who I no longer wish to be." At the point, the dark man was to appear in the mirror, and you had to say the name of the person, in that case persons, you want gone. Then wait 10 seconds before blowing out the candles and turning on the lights. Sam still had the black candles that he used when he did the ritual, so we used those. I said the incantation, and what I saw now in the room. It was a dark figure of a man with a top hat. He was blacker than the darkness. In Sam's bedroom, no figures, just a dark silhouette. I said my brother and sister's name and blew out the candle after 10 seconds. When Rupert died, just a few days after I did the ritual, my parents were devastated. They barely talked to each other for weeks. Just went through their day-to-day lives like mindless zombies. Then, just as they were getting over their grief, Olivia was murdered in her bed, cut open from a solar plexus just above the ground. And of course, my parents went back to dealing with their grief in silence. After the grief passed, I got all the attention I ever wanted. After all, I was the only surviving child. I got so much attention that I almost sickening. It was until years later that I learned what I know now. You see, I managed to skip the 7th grade, which allowed me to graduate from high school in 1960. I went on to attend Michigan State and joined the Navy after. Sam, on the other hand, went through 7th grade and finished high school in 1961, the year I would have normally graduated. Sam didn't go to college. Instead, he went on to try to have a career in professional baseball. Sam thought of himself as another Mickey Mantle. However, he never got out of the minors and eventually hung up his cleats and traded his baseball bat for a rifle and joined the army. I lost touch with Sam after that. I met her grandma down in Nookwood, got married, and when I discharged, moved back up here and got a job in the city certified public accountant. It was early 1968 when I happened to sit next to another friend from a childhood, Lester Green, on the commuter train home. Lester and his family were the ones of few African Americans that lived here back then. Like me, Lester has gone to college, and like Sam, had joined the army. The pleasant surprise turned sour when I learned that Sam had been killed in Vietnam, according to Lester. He and Sam were the same platoon, and while exciting to cleaning the jungle, were ambushed by the Vietcongs. Moments before the attack, Sam had dropped his rifle and started fleeing, screaming something about the dark man. Moments later, he was shot in the back by Vietcong sniper and died instantly. Lester and the rest of the army believed the dark man Sam screamed about was the Vietnamese council soldier. Sam had spotted before the ambush and had turned coward instead of facing the enemy head-on. Being the leader of the platoon, Lester was tasked with telling Sam's father the news. When I heard about Sam shouting about the dark man, I became worried, so I asked if I could tag along as there was something I needed to see for myself. Lester let me as long as I didn't interfere with his official duties. I told him it wouldn't. While Lester talked to Sam's father, who refused not to believe that his son was dead, but that his son was a coward and yelled at Lester for telling him lies. I went up to Sam's old bedroom. It still looked the same as it did when I last visited him. Baseball penalties, and old horror movie posters abandoned on the wall, and atop the shelf of his bookcase was the black book. It still had the red bookmark that marked the page with the Darkman ritual. I took the book and opened it to the page. I didn't know what to find, but when I did, I knew I would never be the same again. At the bottom of the page, in fine print, was a warning. It read, "Warning, the Darkman will require payment in the form of your soul. The Darkman does not operate on any fixed schedule and can come collect as early as a week after providing the requested service. 2 decades. Regardless to when the Darkman collects, cannot escape him, no matter where you go or how far you travel. The Darkman will collect his payment whenever he decides, no matter what." After reading that, I knew I was doomed. I tried to return it to Hanson's Oddity, which at the time was still in business, but Hanson said the book could not be returned to previous order, and since I had taken it from Sam's house, Dad made it mine. He also told me that the book could only be destroyed by a man of the cloth. I called him a liar and forced him to take it. The next morning, I found it under my pillow. Again, I took it back to Hanson and was told the same thing. I tossed it in the dumpster in the alley, but found it again the next morning in my sock drawer. At first, I thought Mr. Hanson was stalking me and placing the book inside my house, but the more I thought about it, the less that it made sense. He would have to leave the store, follow me home, waited till your grandmother and I went to bed, have found a way in somehow, gone past Hercules, our Doberman Rottweiler mix, and placed the book in the spot of his choosing. I had tried multiple times to get rid of it. I threw it in the river or buried in the field. I even tossed it into ceramics, so when they were building the Scott Town Mall. Every time I get rid of it, I find an unusual place around the house. I did consider having it destroyed by religious figure, and almost took it to the St. George's Cathedral to have the priest destroyed, but chickened out last minute because I was afraid of the priest finding out what I did all those years before, and contacting the police. It sounds silly, I know, but back then I didn't want to face what I did. So I put it in the closet in the back of my closet where it remains all these years. After hearing the story, I started dumbfounded at the story. My grandpa spoke up again. "Promise me you'll destroy spells, summonings, and rituals after I'm gone," he said, squeezing my hand. "Sure, Grandpa Henry." "I will," I said. "You're a good young man, Nicholas." My grandpa said, then he looked to the corner and said, "Okay, I'm ready now," and with that, he breathed his last. After the funeral, I went back to his house. I made my way to his bedroom, and after moving his old golf clubs out of the way, I found the crawl space, and in it I found the book. Whatever doubt I had about my grandpa's story soon vanished when I saw the dust-covered book. I took it back to the cemetery school, where I enlisted the help of my old professor, Reverend Smith, to destroy the book. We took it out behind the campus chapel and used white candles from the cemetery, burned the book, spells, summoning, and rituals till there was nothing left. Well, that's the end of the story, so please subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications. I will link my Twitter below for you guys to follow for updates on my YouTube channel, and also I will put my email down there so you can submit your own scary stories for my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video.